In the 8th century, Europe stood divided, scarred by the fall of Rome and the chaos of warring tribes. The Western world longed for order, yet kingdoms rose and fell with fleeting power. Among them, the Frankish Empire began to emerge under the Carolingian dynasty. Out of this uncertain world rose a leader who would later be known as Charlemagne, one of the greatest medieval kings. His story began in the shadow of Rome's collapse, where law, faith, and warfare collided. Charlemagne's rise was not only a tale of conquest, but also of vision. He sought to create a realm that would echo Rome's glory and surpass it. Before his crown became the symbol of the Holy Roman Empire, he was simply a Frankish king, yet destiny prepared him for greatness. The Carolingian dynasty, named after Charles Martel, grandfather of Charlemagne, had carved its legacy in blood and faith. Charles Martel halted the Muslim advance at the Battle of Tours in 732, ensuring Europe remained under Christian rule. His descendants built upon that victory, shaping the Frankish Empire into a force unmatched in the medieval world. By the time young Charlemagne was born in 742, the dynasty carried immense influence. His father, Pepin the Short, seized the Frankish crown and cemented Carolingian legitimacy with papal approval. This alliance between throne and altar would define Charlemagne's destiny. No longer were kings crowned by blood alone. They required the blessing of Rome. For Charlemagne, the bond between political power and sacred authority became the cornerstone of empire. When Pepin the Short died in 768, his kingdom passed to his two sons, Charlemagne and Carloman. The Frankish Empire seemed destined for division, yet fate intervened. Carloman's sudden death left Charlemagne as sole ruler, a medieval king with unparalleled opportunity. At just 26, Charlemagne inherited vast lands, a restless nobility, and a church eager for protection. The young Frankish king carried himself with confidence, standing tall and broad-shouldered, with a commanding presence that inspired both fear and loyalty. From the very beginning, Charlemagne displayed ambition not just to rule, but to expand. The Carolingian dynasty demanded more than survival. It demanded greatness. Europe watched as a new ruler prepared to forge the Holy Roman Empire, uniting faith and sword in ways unseen since Rome itself. Charlemagne's reign began with war. In Italy, the Lombards threatened the papacy, seizing territories and challenging Christian unity. Responding to Pope Adrian's plea, Charlemagne marched south in 773 with his Frankish armies. The campaign was swift and decisive. The medieval king besieged Pavia, capital of the Lombard kingdom, forcing King Desiderius to surrender. By 774, Charlemagne had conquered the Lombards, adding Italy to the Frankish Empire and securing the Church's eternal gratitude. This victory transformed him from a regional ruler into the defender of Christendom. The Carolingian dynasty's influence spread beyond the Alps, echoing Rome's old ambitions. The conquest of Lombardy was not merely territorial. It symbolized the divine mission of Charlemagne, a Frankish king forging the path toward empire. If Italy was Charlemagne's first triumph, Saxony was his greatest struggle. The pagan Saxons resisted Frankish expansion and Christian conversion with relentless fury. For decades, Charlemagne launched campaigns across the Rhine, burning villages, building fortresses, and baptizing conquered warriors. Yet each victory was followed by revolt. The Saxon Wars defined Charlemagne's reign, testing his resolve and the might of the Carolingian dynasty. His brutality shocked even contemporaries. Thousands of Saxons were executed after refusing baptism, a grim reminder of medieval kingship's harsh reality. But through blood and iron, Saxony eventually fell. By forcing Christianity upon the Saxons, Charlemagne expanded not just the Frankish Empire, but the reach of the Church, forging unity through conquest. In
In 778, Charlemagne marched south across the Pyrenees, seeking to expand the Frankish Empire into Muslim-controlled Spain. His aim was to aid local rebels and extend Christian influence, yet the campaign turned into disaster. At Roncesvalles Pass, Basque fighters ambushed the Frankish rearguard, slaughtering knights and even Charlemagne's closest captain, Roland. Known in legend as the Song of Roland, this defeat revealed the limits of Charlemagne's power. Meanwhile, remnants of the Visigoth revolt complicated his ambitions in Iberia, as shifting alliances between Christians and Muslims made Spain a land of treachery. For the Carolingian dynasty, Spain was less a conquest and more a warning. Even a mighty medieval king could bleed. Charlemagne returned to Francia wiser, understanding that not every war could be won by the sword.
Though Spain humbled him, Charlemagne turned once more to Saxony. The Saxons rebelled with fierce devotion to their old gods, led by the warrior Wietekind. For years, Charlemagne's armies waged endless campaigns in the forests, crushing villages and forcing mass baptisms. In 782, the massacre at Verdun shocked Europe, as Charlemagne ordered the execution of more than 4,000 Saxon captives. This brutality marked him as both savior and tyrant. To the church, he was the chosen ruler who spread Christianity. To his enemies, he was a destroyer. Yet Charlemagne's persistence prevailed. Wietekind submitted, baptized as a Christian, symbolizing the Saxon surrender. The Frankish Empire stretched farther than ever before, and the Carolingian dynasty proved its iron will. War defined Charlemagne, but so did construction. Determined to mirror Rome, he ordered the building of palaces, cathedrals, and fortresses across the Frankish Empire. His most famous creation rose in Aachen, where a grand palace and chapel became the beating heart of the Carolingian dynasty. Modeled after Byzantine splendor, its golden mosaics and marble columns reminded all who entered that Charlemagne was not only a medieval king, but a ruler chosen by God. Aachen became the cultural and political capital of the Frankish Empire, a symbol of order rising from chaos. The Holy Roman Empire would later look to this city as its foundation, where stone and spirit forged the identity of a united Christendom. Charlemagne believed that conquest alone could not sustain an empire. To strengthen the Carolingian dynasty, he revived learning and culture. Scholars from across Europe were summoned to his court in Aachen, including Alcuin of York, who reformed schools and copied ancient texts. This Carolingian Renaissance preserved the wisdom of Rome and Greece, ensuring that medieval kingship would not drown in ignorance. Latin became standardized, monasteries flourished, and knowledge, once fading, returned to life. For Charlemagne, education was not a luxury, but a weapon. An empire built on faith and literacy would endure. The Frankish Empire became not just a realm of swords, but of books, laying the intellectual foundation for the Holy Roman Empire. From his earliest campaigns, Charlemagne bound himself to the papacy. In exchange for loyalty, the Church sanctified his conquests. As the Frankish Empire expanded, missionaries followed his armies, converting pagans under the shadow of the sword. The Carolingian dynasty became inseparable from the fate of Christendom. For medieval kings, religion was not merely faith, it was legitimacy. To be crowned by the Pope meant divine approval, a power stronger than any sword. Charlemagne's wars against the Saxons, Lombards, and even the Visigoth revolt in Spain were framed as holy missions. By defending the Church, Charlemagne elevated himself beyond king. He became Christendom's protector. This fusion of altar and throne would define the Holy Roman Empire itself. On Christmas Day in the year 800, history changed forever. In the great Basilica of St. Peter's in Rome, Pope Leo III placed a golden crown upon Charlemagne's head. The Frankish king became Emperor of the Romans, reviving an empire thought lost since antiquity. The Holy Roman Empire was born. To witnesses, the moment carried divine weight, a medieval king transformed into God's chosen emperor. For the Carolingian dynasty, it was the ultimate triumph, binding royal authority with sacred approval. Yet for Charlemagne himself, the coronation was both glory and burden. He now carried the legacy of Rome, the duty of defending Christendom, and the challenge of uniting a fractured Europe. His name would forever be remembered as the father of the West.
Charlemagne's Holy Roman Empire stretched from the Pyrenees to the Danube, from the North Sea to Italy. Ruling such vast lands required innovation. He appointed counts and missi dominici, royal envoys who carried his laws across the Frankish Empire. Justice was enforced in his name, markets were regulated, and roads secured. Medieval kings often ruled by fear, but Charlemagne added structure. He understood that empire meant order, and order demanded law. Under his governance, the Carolingian dynasty thrived, balancing sword with administration. Though distant provinces often tested his control, Charlemagne's system ensured unity. He was not merely a conqueror, he was a ruler who sought to bind his empire with rules as well as faith.
Charlemagne's court at Aachen became a beacon of learning. Schools attached to cathedrals multiplied, teaching reading, writing, and Christian doctrine. The script, known as Carolingian minuscule, standardized handwriting, making texts easier to preserve. Ancient works of Rome and Greece were copied, saving knowledge that might otherwise have vanished in the medieval darkness. This intellectual revival ensured that the Holy Roman Empire was not only an empire of swords, but of ideas. The Carolingian dynasty earned its legacy not only on battlefields, but in libraries. For centuries, scholars would look back to Charlemagne's reign as the dawn of learning in medieval Europe, a time when wisdom returned under the banner of a Frankish king.
Despite his triumphs, Charlemagne faced unrest. The vast Frankish Empire was stitched together by conquest, and rebellions flared on its edges. Nobles grew ambitious, churchmen sought more power, and distant peoples resisted foreign rule. Even within his family, disputes over succession threatened stability. Medieval kingship was never secure, and Charlemagne understood that empire demanded constant vigilance. Yet through diplomacy and sheer will, he preserved unity. He summoned assemblies, listened to grievances, and balanced justice with severity. The Carolingian dynasty's strength rested not only on armies, but on the emperor's ability to keep order among lords and clergy alike. His greatest struggle was not against outsiders, but against the very fragility of empire itself.
Charlemagne's coronation in 800 angered the Byzantine Empire, which saw itself as the true heir of Rome. To Constantinople, only its emperor could claim the Roman legacy. Yet Charlemagne's power could not be ignored. After years of tension, diplomacy prevailed. Marriage alliances and negotiations led to recognition of Charlemagne as emperor in the West, though never equal in Byzantine eyes. This fragile peace reflected the shifting balance of power between East and West. For medieval kings, legitimacy was contested on parchment as much as battlefield. The Holy Roman Empire was born in rivalry, shaped not only by faith and sword, but by political maneuvering across continents.
While kings and bishops shaped destiny, ordinary life unfolded in villages and towns. Under Charlemagne, peasants farmed fields, merchants traveled along secured roads, and craftsmen built tools for war and peace. The Frankish Empire thrived on agriculture, with monasteries serving as centers of both faith and economy. The Carolingian dynasty encouraged order in markets and justice in disputes, giving common people a measure of stability rare in medieval times. For many, Charlemagne's reign meant safety from raids, a chance to till the land, and hope for prosperity. The Holy Roman Empire was not only a vision of crowns and cathedrals, but also the simple lives of those who lived under its protection.
Charlemagne fathered many children, but succession remained uncertain. Medieval kings often divided realms among heirs, risking fragmentation. Charlemagne hoped to secure continuity for the Carolingian dynasty. He crowned his son, Louis the Pious, as co-emperor, ensuring the Holy Roman Empire would outlast him. Yet beneath this order, rivalries brewed among his offspring. The seeds of future division were sown even during his lifetime. Still, Charlemagne's decision to crown Louis reflected foresight. He sought to build not only for himself, but for generations. The empire he created was too vast to rest on one man's shoulders. It required lineage, law, and divine blessing to endure.
In his later years, Charlemagne grew weary. The once vigorous medieval king slowed, though he continued to oversee campaigns and reforms. In 814, after 46 years of rule, Charlemagne died in Aachen, the city he had raised as his capital. His burial in the cathedral he built symbolized the unity of throne and altar. The Frankish Empire mourned its greatest ruler, the man who had forged the Holy Roman Empire. Yet even in death, Charlemagne's presence lingered. His crown passed to Louis the Pious, but his legend passed to history, shaping Europe's destiny for centuries to come.
Charlemagne's empire did not endure intact. Within a generation, the Frankish Empire fractured, torn apart by inheritance disputes and invasions. Yet his vision outlived him. The Holy Roman Empire, though fragmented and imperfect, carried his legacy across centuries. For medieval kings who followed, Charlemagne was the model of rulership, a conqueror, lawgiver, and protector of faith. The Carolingian dynasty faded, but Europe's memory of Charlemagne grew stronger. He became a legend, a symbol of unity in an age of division. His reign marked the bridge between the ancient world and medieval Christendom.
The rise of Charlemagne was more than the story of a medieval king. It was the rebirth of empire in the West, the forging of the Holy Roman Empire from the ashes of Rome. Through wars against Lombards, Saxons, and Visigoth revolt, through alliances with popes and scholars, Charlemagne reshaped Europe. His empire stood as both sword and scripture, conquest and culture, might and meaning. Though centuries have passed, his shadow endures. The Frankish Empire may be gone, but the dream of unity it carried still echoes in Europe's history. Charlemagne, king of the Franks, father of the Carolingian dynasty, and first emperor of the Holy Roman Empire, remains a name carved into the foundations of the West.